We'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and open the meeting if we can stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, if we could do a roll call, please.
Roll call for the Roads and Infrastructure Committee. Lenny,
Here.
Counselor Howe,
Here.
Dan Marcy,
Here.
Scott Smiley. Not present.
See him.
This says you, oh, I didn't let him in. Oh. I don't know, it's not letting me in. All right, we have Scott. Hi there, we're in the middle of roll call right now. So Scott, are you present?
Yes.
Let me put up the volume here.
You hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Very good.
Now, what's already?
RN is the AI transcribing,
Oh, okay.
and then what is this? What just happened? Excuse these difficulties.
Samples there also.
Yeah, Santos is here, but we went away. I don't know where we are. Does anybody know how to get us back?
I can tell that you're here, Eliana, but I can't see your picture anymore.
All right, I'm gonna get out and come back in then, just for the audio, for the visual. Be right back. Okay, you can
Hey.
see us now.
There you are.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so carrying on. So Scott is present. Chris said he is not going to be in today. Randy,
Here.
and then we have Kurt and Santos. All right, we have a quorum. You may proceed.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye. We have minutes from last fall, the last committee, and the meeting that we had on March 6th. If you have copies of those, could I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll second it.
We don't have questions or comments from the audience. So new business, the first item is to vote on a committee chairperson. I have volunteers or nominations.
Plate is full, so I can't do this. I can't be the chairman of this committee as well as chairman of the HOA, architectural plus Firewood Angels and other things that I'm doing.
I guess I can volunteer.
Okay, that sounds good. Could I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
All right.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We need a committee secretary. And the secretary does not actually have to do the minutes. We'll take care of the minutes, but we need someone to act in that capacity.
You're looking at me. It's fine.
Okay, a second,
Second.
Lenny. Thank you.
So just a clarification question. Our last week it was to determine if Lenny and I are on the committee. Are we on the committee?
Yes, that was formally done.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, council took care of that.
So as of March 9th.
Right. All right, so I will, turn the meeting over to the, committee chairman. And we'll move on to new business item C. And each committee in the village, and I think there's 9, has prepared a charter. And, Eliana passed out samples from 3 different committees. We don't need to do the charter today. It's suggested that each of you look at it. And when you come back to the next meeting, you'll have some ideas. And at that point, we can, start to settle on a charter. That sounds good. It looks like at this point that the new chair might want to go to item D, discussion on infrastructure improvements.
And he's just looking at the charter training.
Pardon?
I said he's just looking at the charter training.
Bert, are you prepared to lead a discussion on that?
I can discuss, projects that I would like to see done
Okay,
and, can add to them.
that would be helpful to the committee, I think.
Okay, so I'll go through the departments of Public Works and what, we're hoping to get in budget this year. It's gonna be tough to get all of these projects. This is kind of the overall wish list, starting with sewer. Our belt press facility, which is up at the sewer plant, is not functioning, right now. And we're looking at about $50,000 in repairs that need to be done to that. I've got to say, after just recently spending $9 million on that facility, it's, kind of strange that we weren't fully functional everywhere. But it was, something that was taken out of the scope of work and stayed within the budget of the project.
And what was that again?
It's the belt press,
Bell press.
belt
Bell.
press. And what, after, the settling ponds are cleaned out, material is sent into there and through a process is dried and then can be disposed of. Another project we want to do in sewer is relocate our outfall facility. This is the facility that once the water is treated and can be discharged into the creek. This is the location currently is just north of Flamingo Road on resort property. Prior to the current facility being built, it was the point that once the waste was settled in the ponds here, it was then sent to another pond and aerated where it could be discharged through sprinklers up towards Halo Pines. And even though once a new facility was built, that's no longer necessary. That still is the point where we discharge water back into the Synagoga Creek. Problem with that is one, we, drive through, resort property to get there. It's also in an area where we're hoping to develop a hiking trail and, potentially another phase of workforce housing. So what we're looking at is relocating that outfall facility to over off of Camino Grande, right across from the headworks. And that's about a $50,000 project as well. We need some upgrades to the septage receiving station at headworks to accommodate the larger trucks. And we want to do SCADA additions to our sewer lift stations. Similar system to what we have on our water system, but in some of our sewer lift stations. We have 7 sewer lift stations. And solid waste, biggest line item with them was a building remodel. Estimating about $500,000 worth of work needs to be done to that facility to include, spray foam insulation and roof repairs and some door replacements. Sorry, sir.
And that was on the lift stations.
That's for solid waste. Yeah. Sorry, I'll move a little slower through these items. On it. In the water department, one of the projects that we have started on slightly out of necessity, but we want to continue is PRV rehabilitation.
What was that?
PRV,
PRV.
pressure reducing valve.
Right.
We have, I believe, 38 throughout the village, and we've had to replace a few of them due to overpressure issues. A lot of them were put in the 70s and early 80s. And a lot of those older PRVs also have some lead, trying to eliminate. The 3 that we've replaced recently, we contracted with a guy out of Albuquerque, Bill Kerr, came up and did the repairs, but also trained our staff to do the repairs. So to where we can buy the parts and do the work ourselves. We have a person on our staff that's going to kind of champion the project. And initially this year, we're looking at about $90,000 in parts to address some of those. The next thing is, and I think it's probably our priority number 1, is addressing the fire hydrants that need repair or replacement. Last summer, we did have a fire hydrant inspection where every single fire hydrant was inspected. We have, I think it's 36 left, done 36, done 40. We do have we did buy some hydrants this last year. We want to get some more, looking at about $90,000 there to get our stock where it needs to be. I have discovered that a lot of the fire hydrants can be repaired in place and not have to be fully replaced. But there are some that need to be fully replaced.
And they're all on good mains.
No. No, there's a fair number of fire hydrants that are off of 4-inch mains, a few that are off of 3. One way you can tell on the older hydrants, which are off a smaller line, is they only have 2.5-inch outlets. They don't have the 4.5. So there's a fair number of those. Now, the thing is, when we, and this has happened, we've replaced a couple of those older ones with a regular fire hydrant. So when they tested on the 4.5-inch, they have adequate flow for the 4.5-inch outlet, obviously coming off of a 4-inch line.
Right.
Okay, But those are the only kind of hydrants we're putting back in.
So
It's with the 4.5 and 2.5.
the color on the top of the hydrant, green, blue, how does that all fit in?
Right, trying to remember which ones.
I think isn't green the best pressure
Yes,
and blue's next and then
yes,
there's some other colors.
yeah. Yeah, and of course, when it's bagged, then it's not working.
I just covered.
Now, understand that, you know, some of those hydrants were bagged because, and we've already addressed a couple of them, they were missing a flange bolt. You know, it's not that they're fully unfunctional, this, that, and the other. It's like the ones we just installed for Allen Fields are all bagged because we had the main shut off when they tested them. Things like that. But yeah, we had some, like I said, that when we had put a new hydrant in and they had the orange color instead of the blue or the green that they had before. And that was the case, is that a larger hydrant was put in. One project that we're hoping to get into design is to install another PRV on Bill Burgess Boulevard. This is probably about a $90,000 project. And the reason for this is right now, the back basin water system feeds, of course, the back basin road and part of the core area. El Jefes, the ski school, a good number of the condominiums off of Jackson Hole Road. And as we discovered 2 years ago, when the well failed on us back there, it affected, you know, a pretty good size area in the core. Now, there is a means of supplying that area off of the 1 million gallon tank, which gives us a lot more capacity to the condos and the businesses there. But to increase the pressure at, say, the point of where El Jefes is, to accommodate fire suppression, everything else, then it creates an overpressure down here. Because there's not a PRV in between the 1 million gallon tank down here. We already have pressures like here at Village Hall and out on Camino Grande of 130 to 140 PSI. Obviously, if we increase it up there, it's going to overpressure down here. So the hope is to install a PRV that we can control the pressure down low and boost the pressure up there and get all of that area off the 1 million gallon tank. Because the back basin well produces 20 gallons a minute. It's done well. It's kept up all through the busy seasons and everything. The well's performing very well, but if we get in a point of further build out on Back Basin Road, we're gonna wanna be able to get the businesses and the condominiums being fed all the way from Back Basin onto the 1 million gallon tank. We've got booster station upgrades. A lot of the buildings that are booster stations, well, a fair number of them were built in the early 80s and not much has been done since. We have already remodeled a couple of them, pulling out the old bat insulation, doing spray foam. And where we were the last couple of years budgeting a pretty high number of dollars to totally rebuild those facilities, we found that they are pretty structurally sound. We just want to get spray foam insulation. The bat insulation doesn't do too well with the moisture and everything that can be present in those booster stations. And we want to do some treatments to the outside to make them more aesthetically pleasing. One thing I've proposed is to wrap all the buildings in metal, in pro panel, if you will.
Yeah.
Maybe just burn time down a little bit and, give it a little extra fire protection. And the thing is, what we've found is we can do these remodels and these upgrades and get good insulation on there for far less. So we're looking at putting about 75,000 this year into remodeling some of these booster stations.
Would that be in-house or would it be contracted out?
Contracted out. The exterior treatments like the, you know, if we metal wrap and stuff like that, our maintenance department will be able to do that. But, the spray foam insulation, there's a contractor that does work local here that has, done a great job, and it's a pretty reasonable price that he charges us. Any questions on, there is one item we need to be aware of in water, is that there are 2 artesian wells that, we have to come up with a plugging plan for. One of them is next to Bill Burgess Boulevard and Winter Park Lane. There's a little building right there. That's the Coffee One well. That well originally directly supplied, when the water system was initially put in the core area, that well supplied water directly into the lines with booster pumps. It has been abandoned for quite some time, since the 1 million gallon tank was built, actually. And it has an artesian flow. So we've already had that cameraed and scoped. We're hoping they could develop the plugging plan off of that. But due to some sediment, state engineer's office is asking that it be drilled out so they can definitely see where the artesian flow is coming from. And the other well is what's called snow well. It's the well that's up by the snowmaking pond above El Jefes that supplies snowmaking water. It too is artesian. While it's being used in the winter, it doesn't have any artesian flow. As soon as it shuts off, it builds up pressure. And the engineer's office said the issue with artesian isn't, it takes more than just capping it off where it's not going to come up. Their fear is that contaminants from the artesian layer can get into the aquifer. So a lot of these wells were done on standards that wouldn't be acceptable today. Like the well we did in the back basin, the one we replaced had 40 feet of surface casing and was grouted 20 feet down. Where the new well had to go 80 feet down, surface casing fully grouted in.
12 inch.
It's just an 8-inch well. But the surface casing, they said, I believe, was a 15-inch. And then your regular casing goes in, and it's all grouted around there. And to seal off that artesian layer. And that made the back basin well go from 50 gallons a minute to 20 gallons a minute. So that's how much was coming in from the artesian layer. But anyway, what that means is, you know, we're looking at probably $400,000 to address those 2 artesian wells. Now, these 2 wells have been an issue with the state engineer's office for many years. We started to address it. And then we were kind of made to address it because they gave us a conditional use permit for the back basin well. And one of the conditions is that we address these 2 artesians. So it's kind of something we're gonna have to bite the bullet on. And obviously the snow well is a little more complicated, where Coffee One, you know, clean it out, get the assessment, and then basically fill it in. Snow well has to stay operational. So it's gonna be a little more involved to pull that pump, and there's the well data is not very good. So they don't know what they've got for surface casing or anything. So, you know, the snow well is very important to our economy here, as it's our main water supply for snowmaking on the front side of the mountain. Little nervous about that one, but something we have to do.
Was that ever considered to go into that reservoir that they had talked about putting up there at one time?
The water out of this pond just supplies water to the very bottom of the mountain. It doesn't go all the way up to the top.
So what you're saying is that the state wants you to eliminate the artesian flow into your water well.
Yes,
And if you do that, there won't be enough water coming out for the snowmaking, is what you're thinking, right?
Well, there's a chance that if they rework the snow well and eliminate the artesian flow, if they're able to, the hope is that there is still enough annular space in there that they could seal off the artesian flow. But if a big part of the flow going into that well is artesian, then it could cut the production of that well down.
So could the snowmaking have its own well in the artesian layer? Because that's
No.
not potable water needed for snow, I would not assume.
No, you can't, I asked that question and they said you can't draw water from the artesian level.
For drinking purposes.
It has more to do with what's considered groundwater and what's surface water. So anything in the artesian layer is considered surface, and we don't have surface water rights.
Gotcha. And the resort doesn't either.
They have some surface water rights of Monteverde Lake, but they can't be transferred to that well.
Gotcha. Understood.
I have-
Thank you.
Question.
Yes, sir.
If there, why is the village responsible for capping this well if it's being used for snowmaking on the resort?
Because the village owns the wells.
So are you selling water to the resort?
Yes.
Okay.
They have a 99-year lease. And this is all part of the water and sewer transfer agreement in the mid-90s. And they have a 99-year lease, and it's a very small amount of money that they pay.
So we could cap this well, if they have a lease for water that the village is providing, where's the water gonna come from?
The other wells.
Not good.
There's 5 wells on the back basin that supply the snowmaking system and 1 in the front.
Is the lease payments that they're making, I assume, on this, at least cover the expenses?
No, not even close.
Okay.
It's quite a set of documents, but the water and sewer transfer agreement is something else, put it to you this way. Yeah. Irrigation water, from the water and sewer transfer agreement, it's established that we can't bill for irrigation water. So we don't bill for watering of a golf course, don't bill for landscaping, any of that. Snowmaking water is not billed for. There's a lease of the wells. It's like $1 a year per well.
That's a pretty good deal for the resort.
It's an excellent deal for the resort. But
So is there any way of looking at non-potable water for their irrigation uses?
there's been talk in the past about being able to use the treated effluent water for snowmaking. It's a practice commonly exercised in the ski industry, especially in the Midwest and back east. But the logistics of getting the water from the sewer treatment facility up to the mountain, there's some pretty big hurdles there. Not just distance, but also easements. Questions on that? On streets, we want to continue with drainage needs, working on drainage, have some culverts that need replacement throughout the village. And we do want to continue hauling base course into some roads that need it. There are some areas, particularly around Monteverde Lake, that have some roads that have never had base course on them at all. But there are also roads we're hoping to get funding for to replace the water lines. And we will be, this isn't a real big expense line item, but, we're gonna continue milling chip seal up. Got chip seal around the lake. Few other areas out there, the areas that we milled up, last year, Bahia Grande South, Bahia Grande North. Roads are in a lot better shape now than when they had chip seal on. And that's, a brief summary of some of them.
Is that base course coming out of Jackson Hill?
Yes.
Is there any future that they might put some material in that to get it to bond?
Yes, but also have a lot of areas out there that we're desegregating and really having tough time settling in, like fast compaction test and everything. But a lot of those areas, now that the material is really settling in and it's really been working,
Is the-
the roads were a lot better, going into the winter than they were, right after we placed the material. Yeah, a lot of it's settling in good. And some places, we've tried to, hit some hot spots with some of that material that, as you say, has more clay or more binder in it. Same result. Some of it's just the nature of the road, the traffic. And, again, our biggest need is just constantly. Some spots we just have to stay on pretty constantly, no matter what we're on. But, some of the items I had added to the agenda were things that y'all had mentioned the last time we met, just in conversation about, just go ahead and get them on the agenda and have discussions. One of them would be the stabilization of some of those, road materials.
Do you have a compactor or a roller?
Yes.
Is that when you maintain the roads, does that follow or?
If personnel allows it, if timing allows it, if I have enough people for traffic control. Biggest challenge is getting moisture. Getting somebody in that water truck. And something where, I need to see that if I will have a guy that, my plan is to have him in the water truck almost every day. Unless it's raining, not just for dust control, but a lot of these roads, when we've found that we go in and work them and the moisture level is maintained. We saw in the latter part of last summer when we were getting almost daily rains that we go out and fix a road and just if it kept getting water, road just got better and better as time went by. But obviously, the hope is if we're laying any kind of depth of material, then it's a coordination of water action equipment.
So you also mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, of some assessment programs or AI assessment or looking into that or?
Yeah, I haven't got any more information on it. I was at the basketball tournament last week, and I wasn't able to meet with Tappan, our engineer. He's the one that he had just been approached by it, and he was gonna look into it more. By next meeting, I'll hopefully have some more information.
Yeah, I called my friend who works for a consulting company, and actually they're down to where you can just put your cell phone onto a thing on your dashboard, just drive the roads and give you total assessments of the roads. So they've come a long way.
So when the phone starts doing this, and the assessment's gonna say you got washboards, right?
It's not only that, it's drainage, it's gravity, it's the entire road system.
And I'm guessing with that technology, it might be turn it into something that's more feasible money wise.
Right.
Because obviously that, to have an engineer come out and do an assessment with recommendations on over 100 miles of road, if there's a quicker, cheaper way,
That's come a long way in the last 6 months, as you told me.
Really. Technology is amazing. Any thoughts on projects that y'all would like to see in the infrastructure?
So
I
one
think
of the,
you're, go ahead.
now, one of the other things about the roads is the speeds on the roads. Has the village looked into getting like those radar signs, as those have a big impact on drivers? They can actually see their speeds. Cheat.
Think it's a great idea. So run it by Chief Holbrook.
Some of them that we've installed, at my previous workplace, they actually download data as to how many cars were actually exceeding the speed limit and all of that, but it does have a huge effect on people. When they see those signs and speeds is one of the things that really creates the washboards.
Yeah.
These would be portable or permanent?
They're best because then you get the data of the number of cars passing them and geolocate them and stuff.
And I believe they're solar powered.
They're solar powered, yeah, 100%.
Nice.
They're pretty inexpensive now too.
Yeah,
One
we,
of the things one of the things on road condition that I was thinking about was that your drivers that do the grading work know which sections of road take the longest for them to rejuvenate and bring back to workable solutions. And just to have your drivers download the information that they know about the roads, or where are the worst sections, which are the ones they go back to regularly. To me, seems to me that they could categorize a lot of roads very quickly with their knowledge and understanding that they've obtained by working on the roads.
absolutely. We know what the hot spots are. We know
Yeah.
what's gonna come apart first. We know right now, being extremely dry, got sections of El Camino Real that are coming apart. But we also have a spring break crowd in town. The words that blade operators have used of working on Camino Real when it's real busy is, one of them is terrifying. Okay, so we have to set up active control to really get into a project on there, and obviously it's, shoulder season is a good time to do a lot of those larger projects when we don't have as many people on the roads.
Two of the items in Pagosa that was really important up there was signage requesting people to use four-wheel drive on the roads. Because if people can get into the habit of using four-wheel drive, it's gonna decrease your washboards considerably because you're not spinning your back tires. The other thing that they did a survey on, and they did a lot of changes to, was the stop sign, yield sign on the roads. Because if that traffic doesn't have to come to a complete stop and start up again, because if you look on most of these roads, in front and behind stop signs is where you see a lot of your washboards. The four-wheel drive will help take that away a little bit, but I think some of the signage in this village, I think is really inaccurate for the simple reason they're stopping a major flow of traffic for a route that doesn't have. If you could keep that flow moving, I think you're really gonna decrease your washboards before and after. But those are a couple things that really work well in Pagosa, and a lot of it is on those developments. Because they are always all a POA, so they have to ration their money accordingly for their race course in the spring and to get their blade work done in the spring and their blade work done in the fall, because that's when they basically do it. So most of the POAs will generate a fund to build a fund to where they can buy base course. And then we would always go in and we'd mark the spots where the pit run's showing and places where it needed base and kind of ration it out towards the POA fund. But I think a lot of it is your signage and your stop and go. Because I think if you eliminate that a little bit, I think it would really slow down the washboards. Nothing's gonna take it away. But where you see flow traffic, you're not gonna see the washboards like you would climbing a hill or stopping and going.
Within Title VII, you're welcome to look this up. There's a great graph. As the criteria that establishes speed limits. Line of sight, passing distance, curvature on the road. I presented this, it was not long after Chief Holgriff joined us. And you know, and this was my opinion. Chief Holgriff is the expert and has the final say. But according to that criteria, on some of the roads, and particularly thinking about El Camino Real, as it is definitely our heaviest traveled road with the biggest challenges. According to that graph, some sections should be 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. Okay. It's currently 25. I found at times where 25 seemed too fast going on there. But also knowing that with 25-mile-an-hour posted limit, it's pretty common to encounter people going 40 to 50 miles an hour, sadly. So, but Chief Holgriff assessed it and he felt that the speed limits were adequate. So, and that is up to him.
So just thinking outside the box, I mean, what we did up on the work site up there was a huge driver training thing. And we were able to hit we trained all the haul truck drivers as to how to, make the roads last longer, but the light pickup trucks and stuff, we couldn't hit all of them.
Yeah.
So what we did was we put in, signage that basically said, don't accelerate, over accelerate, don't heavy brake, no heavy braking. Just kind of like when you ride a Chili Express or whatever, and it has the skiers code on there, and each pole has a different part of the skiers code. There's a lot of things that drivers can do to stop those washboards. I mean, accelerating up a hill.
If you educate them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is that you put signs on there that they'll kind of notice and because some drivers.
One of the challenges we see, and it's really all year long now. With short-term rentals really picking up and being big business, there was a time you didn't see many rental houses at 10,000 feet. Okay. Where, obviously in the winter, people show up for those rentals, not anywhere near prepared to get to 10,000 feet. Same thing in the summer. We'll have a lot of people that won't have the option of putting it in 4-wheel drive because they're in 2-wheel drive vehicles. And we can do our best. I could see like in the mine where you can kind of control the traffic and get everybody on the same page. The challenge we have is a large number of people will drive a road up here that they've never been on.
Yeah. And some people just don't know how to drive on a dirt road.
Yeah.
Some people just want to spin their wheels and make the back end slide or whatever else.
And there are some that are convinced that the speed bumps are best navigated at high speed.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, we could definitely do an educational effort, but I know there would be a concern if we ended up all of our roads just completely lined with signs. We'll get some pushback from some people.
I agree too.
But definitely in certain key areas, the beginning of the climb, El Camino Real and U Valley Drive, But yeah, and, you know, no matter what we do, no matter what the speed limits are, there's always gonna be speeding. You know, I was on I-25, it's posted 75, and I was going 85 and people were passing. Okay,
I think you get a lot of people from the big cities that get up here and they just don't feel there's any.
this is true. And in our police department, again, it's 100+ miles of road to them too. And for them to be everywhere all at once, if we're up working in an area and we notice a lot of excessive speed, we give them a call, they help us out. But for them to be able to cover every road all the time, we'll just have to do our best to deal with it.
Get that guy on timber.
Yeah. So if I might ask, when you're in Pagosa, were you with Archuleta County or with the city of Pagosa? Actually, I got to go to their facility and, it's quite a facility. They actually have engineers on staff. And, actually went there to look at a road treatment product that was used out there.
Yeah.
The cementation product. Had a interesting conversation with their engineer there as I walked in and asked about the product, and first words out of their mouth were, stay away from it, absolutely do not use it.
Yeah.
As it was in complete failure. Anyway, that's further down on the agenda. As far as specific projects, and is there, y'all are just getting up to speed on some of this stuff, and particularly with water, it's gonna take us getting out in the field and showing you guys some of the facilities to get a better understanding of how it all functions. But as members of this community, there are particular spots, particular projects you have seen out there.
What's the cost of drilling a new well? For like this, King?
The one we did in the back basin, when it was all said and done, was just over $500,000.
So it's kind of a push to either rehabilitate the artisan wells or drill a new well, right?
Well, on the artesian wells, one will be abandoned, the other one needs to have a plugging and operational plan. I will say that, we got that well drilled for $500,000. The second bidder was $1 million. So the guy that did the well left a good bit of money on the table, still got the job done. But more likely it will be $1 million well to do.
I was just wondering what the trade-off would be to plug both of them and just put in one new one.
$1 million.
Limited on acre foot in our water rights. Hold that groundwater.
Yeah.
So we're kind of unlimited with that, or?
No, we're not unlimited. We got, very close to utilizing all of our water rights this last calendar year. The year before, we exceeded our water rights.
What is it?
It's 750 acres, 750 acres approximately.
So reuse of water seems to be would be a goal for the community to avoid exceeding the water rights.
Yeah, it would help. The issue is that the sewer plant that we have operates at about 25% of its capability. And we don't discharge, every bit of water counts, but it's not like we're gonna come up with 500 acre feet of treated water to use.
And the golf course uses potable water from your system and they put it in the ponds so that they can then pump it into their irrigation system? Is that how they work?
There's a well at their pond where their pumping facility is. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
so that well, okay, that well pumps into the lake, lagoon or pond, and they pump out of the pond with their pumps.
Yes. But the last, not this previous calendar year, but the one before, we used 300 acre feet less than we did the year before. The year before was when they had the big ongoing leak off the 1,000,000 gallon tank that impacted the condos over here. And a lot of ongoing leaks throughout the village. And, you know, we fixed a lot of leaks and we saw the result on water use. Obtaining more water rights is a very hot item, very difficult because people don't want to sell. So
Does the village plumbing code have anything on water, low flow fixtures on the plumbing code?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the water rights are measured at the wellheads.
Yes.
So if you had more storage that you could work with and stuff, you could make sure that you use all your water rights every year. Essentially.
Still, if you had the storage, the water's still gonna come out of the well.
Yeah, I know, but you said 1 year you were 300 acre feet short
No, we use 300 acre feet less.
than what your water rights were.
No, than what was used the year
Oh,
before.
okay,
They exceeded the water rights 2 years in a row.
okay.
We were on the verge of being put to what's called essential use, which when the state engineer's office puts that into play, no irrigation, no snowmaking water, just household use only.
So the resort doesn't have its own water rights or its own.
The only water rights they still possess is, there's, I wanna say it's 40 acre feet out of Monteverde Lake that they could use for the golf course. Problem is they don't have means of measuring their inflow right now. We have spoke with them about getting a partial flume or a flow meter. Because, for years, they did just divert water from the creek into Olympic Park Pond and pump it up from there. There's still a pipe in place, a 10-inch pipe, that a flow meter could be installed and then they could utilize that surface water that they have on Monteverde Lake. Going to push real hard this spring to get them to do that, because that's doesn't sound like a lot, but 40 acre feet, if we were to try to buy it, it's a big chunk of money. And if we can get them to utilize some of that surface water and we can keep that well shut down, it'll definitely help. I will say the highest percentage of water use in the village is from the residents.
So low flow fixtures into the community would be a significant reduction in the water consumption.
So one thing we have noticed that's improving as we've been putting in these new meters that are accurate and read and are able to communicate to us is a vast number of people that have leaks on their service lines that prior to get, they had meters that were put in the 70s that hadn't been working for some time. We've been able to identify a lot of these leaks. We've been able to notify people. The biggest culprits up here is leaking toilet bowls. And we've done the math on a few of these small leaks we addressed, and when you get, I think 30 houses with the same scenario, all of a sudden you're talking about acre feet of water. It adds up pretty quick. So everything all together, we know there's still some smaller leaks in some of our main lines. Again, we're using the Astera program to identify some of those. Their locating team is going to be here tomorrow to start verifying some of these areas of leaks that were determined by the satellite flyover. So that process is starting tomorrow. And just getting everybody to be, conservative with water.
Mhm.
I think we've
One of the-
made great.
one of the projects that I worked on previously for a golf course was where the village or the city had a sewer line or a lift station running close to where their storage pond was. And what we were looking at was putting in a small package plant to take water out of the sewer line, put the effluent right back into the sewer line. So we had no discharges. All we had was the cleaned up water that went into the lagoon for the irrigation use. And therefore it was a reuse of water, but we needed a little package plant in order to generate it. So that was just another idea that if the lift stations or lines were close to the lagoon or the pond that the irrigation system uses, to be able to, extract water, but put the effluent right back down into the sewer line, let it go on to the normal sewer plant. Just an interesting ideas.
Sure. Well, to keep moving forward, do we want to go to item E? Item E. I think we touched on it a little bit already, the assessment of the village roads, to look into the AI options, new technology. The thing is, the assessment on the roads is something that Councilman Howell has spoke about. And so we definitely need to look into it. I think when we last met, Brett had some comments on it and I did as well. Moving forward, I don't think that's really how we should do things. Anybody that has an idea or a concern, y'all as a committee should discuss it. I want to apologize. The other day, I just kind of threw my opinion out. This was also when I'm, looking at $500,000 plus to do an assessment. You got to think about the dollars. But we definitely want to see what's out there in the technology, and if it's been an idea and a wish for Councilman Howell to look into such an assessment. Gonna look into it, because he's definitely earned the right to ask for what he'd like to see happen. So hopefully with the technology or AI or whatever else might be out there, then we can get something.
But maybe what Dan was talking about earlier with the Skeleton program, dash might be a direction. Yeah.
We may find there's multiple options out there.
Wi-Fi into that system where we can put our phone on the dash and go drive around. See what it says and see what our, it says. What we were talking about with doing professional assessment.
Somehow or other, something has to be put into place to, whether it's through a professional assessment or some other type of assessment, so that the village becomes proactive instead of reactive. Because once it's reactive, the status of these roads disintegrates fast enough that the cost of putting it back to a service, into a serviceable product again, goes up considerably compared to just regular maintenance.
Absolutely, and knowing that any project that we do, any kind of road treatment is gonna have a life to it. Whether it's paved or base course, it's gonna have a life. You know, again, getting to that point where we can be proactive. I think we've made some steps to get us closer. We're still a long ways away from it. We're kind of, you know, at times got our mouth on the end of a fire hose, trying to catch up, trying to just keep it just good enough. And, you know, we had, a big commitment in 2024-25 to get material on a lot of roads. Some of the roads that we put material on were basically turning primitive. Wasn't fun plowing roads my first winter here when there were rocks sticking up that high. You know, we made a push, got quite a bit of material down and you know, some roads we couldn't do anything with because there's no material to work with at all. But also to get to the point where we can be proactive, you know, and there needs to be a good plan of prioritizing projects.
Have you guys, has the village prioritized what is considered arterial compared to secondary streets and roads? As far as because your arterial roads are the ones like El Camino Real, San Mateo going up, Spyglass. Those are the main focal roads coming in. Those are three of them anyway. Everybody has to, every road is focused back into those. So those become arterial roads because everybody has to use them. And is there a sheet or a plan that shows your arterial roads compared to your other roads?
Well, us out there working the roads, we definitely know which are the arterial roads. And those roads are what we have focused a lot of effort on in the last 2 years. Those roads are the ones focused on first when we're doing snow removal. You know, what I have seen in the challenge of developing a prioritization of the roads up here is getting everybody on the same page as what's the most important factor. Okay, whether it's road maintenance, reconstruction, or even snow removal. The discussion bounces around from, well, okay, this road should be done because there's full-time residents up there. Every road we have, top of every road has full-time residents on it. Okay. My main priority when I'm prioritizing roads is safety. It's whether I'm laying base course, paving, or doing snow removal. It's safety driven. And but these are the kind of things that, we know very well which are the arterial roads. Okay. But hopefully that's something that can come out of this committee is a plan on what to do next and the sequence that things need to be done and the prioritization. And hopefully we can work at a pace where we can get things done and not get halfway through and have to start back over from scratch.
I think Santos has his hand up for the last.
Sorry, Santos.
You're muted, Santos.
That's all right. I just want to let you know, I mean, I think it's a great question about what maps does the village have with respect to arterials and collectors. And there's actually 2 maps I'm trying to get to all your members of the committee. And the first one is from 2004, and I'm still updating it here on a bigger screen. And it shows the existing collectors, future collectors proposed by the village back in 2004, and the arterials. And on this map, it's 434 is the main one. Bill Burgess is another arterial, El Camino Real going up, the Utes Road, and then it looks like South Angel Fire. No, it looks like Country Club coming in, and then stops as an arterial in front of the Country Club, and then goes back to collector. But there was an amendment to this map that also still needed to clean up. There's not a better way to do it. version 5 still, but it showed collectors coming through the RV park, mobile home estate, Girl Scout Ranch to connect 464 and Sage. And that amendment was made, I want to say 2022. But it's just not something that was going to happen. Then there was a time when a collector was being proposed up to 64 through the county, and then coming back down to Buckskin, to then cut through the community center, to then get to Back Basin. And so the Commissioner Council said that it wasn't something that they'd like to continue on the map either. It was another idea. Folks have said Vail, none of the big trucks go through downtown, to bypass. And that's what really led to that map in 2004, but it's been revived. I'm trying to get all these, they took a highlighter to a map and they just highlighted it. Trying to erase a highlighter, Adobe, it's not a clean thing. So I haven't put the notes back in by hand. But at any rate, I want to get the committee this map. There's another map that the village has. It's an 85 road classification. And I've got it up on the screen. What's chip steel, what's gravel, what's asphalt pavement. And I'm trying to see, is there a year on this map? Obviously, as the conversation you guys have had about updates and classification, I think it's important to look at this map as well as part of the conversation. But I'm going to email Ileana once I have these maps completed with these revisions to the committee so that you have it. And I just did a thoroughfare map amendment 18 months ago. If there are other amendments that you would like to contemplate as you do this road assessments, whether it's by phone or engineer, I think that's something to consider. Just wanted to share.
There is a map that's, that identifies escape routes, fire situation, and those escape routes basically are the arterial roads. So like you mentioned, you know, on this side, you have Back Basin Road, El Camino Real, U Valley Drive. On this side, you have Valle Grande North, Spyglass San Mateo, Lakeview Park Drive, and going across the mountain via Del Rey, which goes all the way across. And those are, like you said, the main roads that everything ties into to get you down and across.
So I guess one of the other things is transparency of all of this work. I mean, do you put anything out in the community of, you know, that you're going to be putting in the new PRV or any of that, or is it just the village council responsibility to get that out? I mean, you know, just putting that out there is that one of the things that Brett was talking about last week was transparency to the community, getting feedback from the community. You can't really get feedback without transparency.
Yeah. Well, all the items that I listed are items that are listed in budget proposals for this next year, which we're in the process of doing right now. But obviously they're finalized towards the end of the fiscal year and completely finalized after the beginning of the fiscal
I was
year.
going to say, you have pretty accurate numbers on there for
Yeah.
just throwing a project out.
Everything's $90,000. Yeah. So yeah, I think we, as best we can, we've been able to, you know, and speaking of budgets and we have our notes in there, we present our budgets to council. If they have questions, then we give an explanation. But this is also something where this committee is going to be helpful in discussion of these projects and then understanding what we get approval for, what dollars we have to work with. And, yeah,
I guess I'm going, the next step is that we're gonna be cutting the road in front of your house, right?
Yeah.
Or your access out. How do you notify people of that or somebody on the other side of the village that we're doing this project over here? I mean, it's just,
if we're gonna be doing a project that's gonna really affect somebody's access to their home, or whatever means necessary, we're gonna communicate with them. We're gonna be doing it. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, no, I'm looking at more of a wider communication to the whole village. It's just what we're doing to benefit you or whatever, because I'm just saying that because when Brett was here last week, he was like, transparency and communications and feedback from the village is what he was kind of looking for. And I know he's got a different, perspective
Yeah.
than you do.
We're gonna get different perspective, and here we are again at a public meeting where the public's invited to attend, and we have 0 people here. We've made a great jump forward in progress, having 5 members on a committee that someone had been able to pull off in 2 years. So hopefully, as discussions start getting out there of, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And people have the ability to come in and say, well, how come my road's not being fixed? How come you're not paving El Camino Real all the way to the top? Everybody's gonna have their opinion, but they need to come and voice it. I think we have a tendency to get opinions from people when we've already decided what we're gonna move forward on. So any way that, we feel that we're being as transparent as possible, we need to encourage more public involvement. And I think, the information is there. And we need to point them in the right direction. All the budget, numbers, everything is all public information. And yeah, I think, it's kind of, tough having the fiscal year end in the middle of the summer, our building season, so, what we have left in dollars to spend the rest of this fiscal year, and then not knowing for sure what we're gonna have beginning of, for this next fiscal year. We'll get a better indication as the budget process starts going. Initially we start off with our big wish list, and that kind of gets cut and chopped based on projected revenues, so forth and so on. And obviously, after a ski season like this, roads department that is funded out of the general fund is definitely affected by business or lack thereof.
To back up just a little bit on getting public to comment, get an interesting comment. What is our way of notifying them that we're having the meeting? Because I haven't seen it. Anything, is it like the info board? On the sign, the electronic sign announcing when we're having these meetings, and
That's an option. It's currently posted on the village website.
so it's on the village website,
Yeah.
so it's not like the info board.
Excuse me if I may, I also go and physically post one at Rockies and at the post office,
So there is,
all of our committee meetings.
it's posted.
I encourage anybody to sign up for the notifications on the website.
Yeah. I must be like, meeting, so that.
Yeah.
Because I, versus when it's coming to us.
Well, and everybody deserves their opinion, and I don't look at it as a opportunity for people to complain. I do look at it as an opportunity to maybe educate people a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you'll hear all kinds of things, hey, I saw on YouTube where they were dragging a steel I-beam around. I'm not gonna do that on my roads, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna pull tires through a culvert to clean it, because we've dug some of them out of culverts. Because there's a YouTube video on it, things like that.
Yeah.
But, we all, everybody needs to have the opportunity to voice their opinion. And I don't want this committee to turn into is me just up here giving my opinion. You know, we've got educated people on this.
Yes,
We've got engineers, we've got people with different experiences.
I ran into something last week with a contractor. Contacted me because he had heard that I'm on the committee to go through the process of inspections for a culvert. It's not, and Brett and I had talked about it, how we have to really protect ourselves as a committee. Because your friends might think that they can get a little bit of leverage by using a committee member to go to you to get that culvert inspected. Well, after Brett and I talked about it, we realized that we just have to kind of turn a blind eye to some of those things and not let the bit of leverage we have on this committee help them benefit.
Well, and as Mr. Kaiser mentioned, you know, wanting to be proactive instead of reactive. You know, it's in regards to projects, but also in regards to communication from the community. I know there were times in the past, because the crew members mentioned it to me, where they would say be starting a project up on this side of the valley. Get everything mowed in, just get started, say, and they'd get the call, hey, you need to move everything over to the other side of the valley because we've got somebody complaining. And you need it. So they found it difficult to really establish any continuity in their work if they were being bounced around by reactionary responses to greasing the squeaky wheel, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I won't be reactionary in that sense. It takes a lot to get me to pull my guys off of a project to go somewhere else just because somebody's calling.
So that's, I mean, that's where procedures kind of help you out a lot, is because if we get a road assessment, it might be that the arterial roads are maintained 3 times in a quarter or a month or whatever, and the collector roads are maintained once every 2 quarters, right? But that gives you ammunition and saying, hey, this is what our maintenance program is these arterial roads. It's been classified as an arterial road. It's done 3 times when this road is done 1 time or whatever. But it just gives you, if you're following a process, it just gives you strength in your communication to someone who's complaining.
Sure.
And if they want to go outside the process, go somewhere else to change that process.
Well, you know, one thing that I think everybody needs to be educated on is how, you know, we could sit down and do our very best to come up with a plan for the next 6 months. This day we're doing this, this day we're doing it. How do you adjust that plan for weather? You know, how do you know, it's always the challenge in any kind of construction. It's, you know, you start off with a great plan when Mother Nature's going to change things. And then you ask, well, do you drop a project out of the middle or you just bump everything further down the line? So it needs to be, you know, if putting a plan together that can be viewed and understood by the public, we also need to have means of communicating changes to that plan based on unforeseen events. Whether it's weather, whether it's personnel issues, whether it's equipment issues, any of that stuff can have a factor. You know, obviously when we develop timelines, get communication to people, okay, this is what we're gonna do this month, this is what we're gonna do next month. We do our best to try to hit those timelines. That just doesn't happen. But I think where you fall short is if people start off with the expectation of those timelines, but they don't get any updates.
I'm sure your whole philosophy on painting changing your schedule a lot too, because rain is so valuable for moistening a road to blade it. Because I know in the past, Pagosa, if it rained, we were out there with the blades cutting washboards.
100%. Yeah,
You know,
and that was last summer. It was beautiful because we were getting rain almost every day. So we had 3 blades out.
And I have to compliment you on that because the last administration, you wouldn't see a blade. Why aren't they moving? Why aren't they moving? Maybe they had a staff problem and whatever. But if it rains, those blades need to be out there cutting washboards. And I mean cutting them out, not just filling them.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Right. Nothing on that, or do you want to go to item F? Soil additives for road stabilization. Spoke a little bit about mag chloride. I don't know, years back, Marvin Sheriff, applied some mag chloride up here, and yeah, it was great dust control.
So mag,
And, but there was a little bit of an issue where, when it did start to come apart, it was similar to pothole chip seal.
yeah, what we found with mag is you have to cut to a certain depth where they lay it. And a lot of times, if your road doesn't have enough base on it, you don't have that depth to cut because you're gonna get into pit run and then you're gonna start bringing up crap you don't want. So I'm not a believer in it. Sure, it worked for a longer period of time than just wetting and cutting and rolling your base in. But for the price, I don't think it's worth it. You know, and for the places that we would need it, be like by Grandy North, where you've got houses on both sides of the road, because it's more of a dust control. It'll keep your road hard for a long period of time. But I don't think mag is something that we would even really consider, because you'd have to pick and choose where you're gonna put it first off, and where's your worst dust problem. And with Pagosa, there's so many paved roads in town, and then you've got your dirt roads all the way around the outside. But when that dust level got to a certain point, the EPA would step in and say, you need to get control of your dust because people are breathing it. And that's where it turned into an issue where Pagosa, being as large as it was, they had to do something. And it was very expensive for us to apply that mag, because there's a process to it. You're probably familiar with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be something that would even be needed here.
Well, I really think there's gonna be a noticeable difference in the dust, just having a water truck running regularly.
Yes.
And yeah, we have, over 100 miles of road, but I'm not gonna attempt to water all 100 miles of it all the time. But like you said, those hot spots, Valle Grande North, El Camino Real, even U Valley Drive, a lot more people are using that now. There's a gentleman that lives, up there, close to the bridge to nowhere, that applies his own and had got approval from council years back on applying his own material, and it keeps the dust down for 3 or 4 days. He spends, caretaker told me $7,000-8,000 a year for that product. And we'll say that a lot of the soil additives that I've looked into, read down to the bottom, most of them will say they don't work well in a dry climate, which we're in New Mexico.
Within that window of BPA too, which gets oil.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying I'm opposed to soil additives or anything like that. I have my reservation about cementation products. Because when they fail big. And how do you redo the road? We saw such a product in Pagosa Springs that was in full failure after a year. And, the thing is, once it fails, it's a pretty tough situation. But the biggest problem I've had with any kind of soil additives or anything is it seems to do a trial basis on any of them, you gotta spend $1 million. Now, I said, if somebody can come with a product and let me do a 200-foot strip of road, a certain curve on El Camino Real or something like that, and put it to a small test. And see how it reacts. If there's something out there, I'm open to it. But like I said, what the biggest challenge that I found is being able to do a small size test without having that. And we, you know, the one product was sold as being half the price of pavement. And that figure was based on the project that they did, that Archuleta County did. Archuleta County did all the work. They rented the milling machine. They did everything. So yeah, it came in $500,000 a mile. Okay, for them to do the work turnkey, it was 20% higher than paid. That's not to say there's not any cementation products out there that might work. I'd really like to test them on. I'd rather not have to spend my whole budget on a test.
Just test.
So.
Typically with the stabilization, soil stabilization product, if you're using it to improve the strength of the road, you need to put a weather course on top of it, which is typically asphalt or chip seal. So and that's not the road bearing layer or anything, that's just a weather coating.
Yeah, initially they proposed chip seal, which is what they did in Pagosa Springs. It failed 3 months in and didn't stand up to snow removal. What they proposed on South Angel Fire Road was a 2-inch paving on top. Even though our village code calls for an arterial roads minimum of 3-inch. It's actually 4 on arterial roads, I'm sorry.
So that's just a weather coat. That's not a wearing coat or anything. That's just a weather coat.
The concerns that I have and I spoke with contractors that have applied those products and did the paving over the top of them is that the treated road base and the pavement don't move the same. Okay, pavement moves a lot. Or if the layer underneath doesn't. And it's proven in some areas it worked real well. But I thought Pagosa was a very good spot to do an assessment because it's so similar to our climate. High altitude but dry, big swings in temperature. You know, they'll get the 70-degree day and the 16-degree morning. And yeah, and the feedback that I got from the engineer for Archuleta County was not very positive towards that product or even that method.
So, I mean, I've done miles and miles of soil cement roads and both pug mill mixing and compacting in place and milling, compacting in place, and they don't last a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them. I was doing it in tropical climates, so it's completely different than here, but they definitely don't last. But asphalt is definitely elastic. That's why if you patch a hole, a pothole in an asphalt with concrete, you're going to get more potholes around it because concrete's solid and the asphalt isn't. You know, it's just going to tear it up. But there's there's soil stabilization, which is cementatious products and stuff, but you can get the same thing with a good base course. And there's dust control, and they're two different things. I mean, dust control, there's tons of things out on the market. I mean, lignites, from the timber industry that you can just put on there. They don't last long, but they do keep the dust down longer than just water. But you gotta define if you're trying to build a road base or if you're trying to keep the dust down. And they're kind of two different things. you can get even worse dust with the soil cement type road because typically with the soil cement road, you've got small finer particles there that they're cemented together.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, you gotta define what you're doing to determine what you want and those lignites and tackifiers and that stuff. My experience with them is they're not worth the cost because they're not gonna last longer.
Well, and when they come apart, it's bad.
Well-
Get the real inconsistent structure in the roads and it just can't be underestimated the effect of freeze thaw cycles out on the roads. It's pretty extreme. We've got, tough challenges up here, but again, all the projects in the world, if we cannot keep and maintain a good maintenance program, staying on top of these roads. And I'm very concerned about our personnel right now. We're in a pretty tough spot. We can't just, one thing I'm not gonna do is sit back and say, well, I don't have enough people, so I'm not gonna do anything. To do what we can, with what we got.
So just one other question on the personnel side. You said you were getting your road base out of Jackson Hill. What kind of quality control data do you get on that? Get anything, or is it just, this is our product?
Well, the 15 miles of road that we did, of course, we had a Proctor and Sieve analysis done on them and then the compaction tests. Actually last spring, they laid all that material, didn't do their testing right behind, so I had them, before they got paid for the work, they had to come verify compaction. And actually the act of reworking those roads and getting all the passing compaction tests, made some of the spots get in worse shape than they were before they did the testing, because they had to redisturb it and it segregated some of the gravel out. But we've got the roads, a lot of them are settling in just through maintenance and just working the material and processing it good. And some, it seems like it's getting better and better. But it just, like I said, no matter which of the base courses we use, some of those high traffic, areas or curves and this, that, and the other, they're just coming up hard. We just have to stay on top of them.
We're kind of coming up to really, really dry winters. So these roads really hasn't had any saturation winter wise, they're thaw.
Yeah.
Because we just haven't had a winter for 2 years now. And last year we had that was a lot of moisture, but I remember 3 years ago up on Committee on Rail at the top hill. They had 3-5 foot of snow right now. To start into our saturation, and the last 2 winters, we have not had any saturation. So these roads are probably really kind of dry. Deep dry.
And, the first year, 15 miles of road, the Jackson Hill base course was the only option.
Yeah.
They weren't crushing an Eagle Nest. Hopefully they'll start crushing some more because we did buy some material from Eagle Nest. The issue we had with it is it has 1.5 to 2 inch aggregate in it, which doesn't meet the spec.
With the Eagle Nest.
Yeah. So the last things we did is repair a section with it to see if the more clay material would work. And the next 2 days, I'm getting calls from blown tires.
In the old days.
You mentioned,
And they had state spec. Because state spec came in and said that they wanted a little more rock in their base. Remember back when they had.
Yeah, the Jackson Hill base course is the state spec also. It's a type 1. An Eagle Nest, they made a type 2 base course. One thing I will say that we experienced even this year with the Eagle Nest material is with the freeze thaw cycle. The areas that had reached some saturation, the north facing sides that surprisingly started melting 2 weeks ago because of the temperatures. that as they've thawed out, there's no compaction left to the material, so it just turns muddy. The material out of the Jackson Hole pit, when we get into the mud season, actually gets stronger and doesn't, we've got some places where we laid the Eagle Nest base course that have 3-4 inch deep ruts in it right now.
So
So it's finding the balance.
I think Scott had a question.
Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, you mentioned that some of the surface treatments didn't stand up to the snow plowing. Do you think there's any connection between that result and the cross section of the road? Are the roads typically crowned, or are they more roof-topped in your ideal section?
Well, they end up with more of a rounded crown than a pointed crown in the road.
With stone, obviously, yeah. But
Yeah.
when you pave a road, do you try to get them to be flat so that the snowplow has a flat surface to go on, or are you still trying to get crowns on them?
Well, when they're paved, it's just a plow truck that plows them because we can't put the motor grader on them. But in some cases, the plow truck can even be more destructive to a chip seal road. But you're absolutely right. If that chip seal is laid over a rounded crown, then it's always going to get wear. Now, the
Right.
area that we looked at in Pagosa Springs, they said that one of the reasons why it failed was because their moldboard had the curve worn in it, and they ended up with a rounded crown. So when they plowed the snow, that's what made the chip seal fail.
Mhm.
But yet I saw the chip seal failing in the center of the road and on the edge of the road. If that was the case, it would have been failing right in the center of the lane.
And were
but yeah,
they, was Pagosa doing a single course surface chip seal, or do 2 courses or multiple courses of chip seal?
it looked like a couple of courses on there to me.
Okay.
Chip seal has just not ever performed well up here. There was quite a bit of chip seal laid down. Chuck, where do you think it was? Maybe
2000 Real, that project was 2004, 2006.
2004, 2006.
Yeah.
And, where we saw failures was something as simple as a shady area and a sunny area, that transition, just not moving properly.
Wow.
And yeah, we started milling chip seal up last summer. Like I said, it's unfixable.
So
Hmm.
what do you think about moving on to item G?
I'm all for it. When we met last time, or at the end of our discussion, Mr. Kaiser had brought up a question about the franchise agreements with the utility companies. We have had meetings with Kit Carson and try to develop means to try to get them to abide by the franchise agreements. We haven't seemed to have had as many issues with CenturyLink as with Kit Carson. But yeah, it's a point of concern and discussion. I think we made some good strides and try to come up with a plan on how to deal with this, but it's keeping that plan going is what seems to be the challenge. It states very clearly in the franchise agreement that before any digging in the road is done, that we're to be notified. Well, they consider every time anybody calls for locates, I get a notification. They consider that to be enough notification. But I did get them to, I've told them that the best thing is for their field superintendent to call me. And if they're gonna be digging in the road, that gives me the opportunity to get there, and I'd rather take some staff over there and ensure that it's properly compacted than try to go fix it after the fact. And it was agreed that that's how the communication would work. But yet this morning, I see a locate ticket pop up and I still haven't got a call. Kit Carson. So something we need to work through. My opinion, there have been times where they have not met the terms of the franchise agreement. So then the question is raised. Now what? Is this, might be something that as a committee can be put before council as a concern?
Have you communicated that concern directly to the council and the mayor?
The mayor knows because he's been in the meetings, Kit Carson has.
And the response?
They said that they would do better and they haven't.
So then apparently they need to be reminded on a daily basis from
Does
someone.
the agreement have any method for you to bill them for the repairs that they do improperly?
Yes,
They would respond to bills.
yeah.
It just,
I'm curious.
the issue that I have is that if the agreement isn't upheld between the two entities, the village ends up spending a lot of money for roads and other infrastructure that they tear up, that they don't put back to specifications as it was before when it was originally dug up. Then the village has to spend additional money to go back in to retrofit, so to speak, and to try to put it back to specs to where you don't have big potholes or you're not undermining additional surfaces on the roads and stuff, costing the village additional monies. It makes no sense to me whatsoever for that to continue. And the perfect example, and the one that I'm really familiar with is that up on that hillside coming off of Olympic Park, and those two holes that were dug. And the one particularly right in the middle of the road was open for months. And I mean, that's a safety. You talk about safety is your number one priority. Well, apparently it wasn't because it was open for months. So that's really a problem and needs to be addressed somehow with Lewis, their CEO over there. And it's really a shame that this village doesn't have an alternative to a different electric provider. And they feel like, I think it seems to me like they feel like they're the only game in town, so they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. It just, to me, all of this stuff that we talk about and all of the costs that you're looking at and projecting makes no difference if you spend all of that money and then you have to go back in and then spend another 10 or 20% to repair what you've already done. It just, that is a no-sum game to me.
Well, that road cut in particular that you brought up was kind of, I think, somewhat of a turning point because, you know, in the franchise agreement, it states that it's their responsibility to repair the road. And for weeks, and it went on way too long. It was literally, we're gonna have somebody there next week. We're gonna have somebody there next week. And it finally got to the point where it's just like, I've got to fix this. It definitely did go on too long. But then we met with them again and tried to get them to, and they finally admitted, we don't have the means to fix it. We don't have compaction equipment. Our people won't use compaction equipment because they're union labor and it's not part of their agreement. Okay, so in effort to do the right thing, that's when I wanted to establish a line of communication where, you know, beyond the 811 locate, me getting the notification, the facilities notification, call and coordinate with us on how to repair this in a timely manner.
Can it be
And
set up to where they could reimburse?
yes. Yeah, they said if we do the repair that we can send them a bill. And that's fine and dandy, but I know exactly, it's fine and dandy if it's a hole this big. When we have a spot like on San Mateo where it was left open for a long time and water intruded and went underneath the pavement and compromised the road down below. I know as soon as I get the estimate from a company like GM Emulsions to cut out that section of road and completely repave it. I'm just guessing they're not gonna be so eager to pay that bill.
Yeah, but why would they ever sign in a franchise agreement that they were gonna be responsible for repairing it when they know none of their people would repair it?
Good question.
Don't worry about, bill them what it needs to be billed.
Well, there's a secondary issue here too. Now, all of a sudden, you are taking your crews off of other projects that need to be completed to fix something that a franchise utility has torn up. The better solution would be to, and maybe it would stop them, is get a contractor in, have them fix it, and send them the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Because your personnel are limited. You have only a certain number of personnel. So if, you talk about kicking things down the road because of weather, that's exactly what you're doing in this particular situation, because your crews can't be doing the things they need to do because they're fixing something that somebody else tore up. And the reason I asked if that had been communicated to the council and the mayor is they're the ones that need to put pressure on Kit Carson and their CEO to stop this. We as a committee, we are toothless as far as that's concerned. The power is right here. It sits right here. They're the ones, and Chuck and the rest of the council are the ones that need to come together as a group to force them to say, no, we're not doing this anymore, guys.
Maybe it takes more than just me complaining about it for it to be a real concern.
Well,
That's where the committee comes in.
yeah.
Yes.
And here is, and I don't think for a minute that I have a list of 5 contractors I can call up here to do a road patch. Because we tried to go that route on San Mateo. Guess what? We couldn't get anybody to come do it.
Okay, let me propose that I take some of this early work and pull all this together, email it back out to all of you before the next meeting, so that you have something in front of you to look at, so we can start to pull all this together, and you will now be in a position to start doing the job you signed up for. So how's that sound? And one of the things we do need to do is set our next meeting.
So I will be out of the area next month for the entire month, so,
Can you call in?
it's gonna be hard. I'm gonna be in Thailand.
Or if you received an email
If I receive an email.
of the minutes, could you respond in writing?
Yes.
Good.
It's just
Right.
waiting on time.
In order to keep this moving, and I know you're gonna be gone, what, rest of the month?
I'm from now until yeah,
Can we look at
Are you
a,
coming back?
I'll be back the 1st of April.
can we look at a meeting the first week in April?
So are you thinking from the 6th to the 10th? In there, the first week?
Say again.
You're thinking of the first week from the 6th to the 10th, correct? Or were you thinking from April 1st to 3rd?
I'm thinking, what do you think, Randy?
The first week of April, I think on the 6th and the 8th, I have doctor's appointments in Santa Fe,
Okay,
and I can't change this. I've changed it 4 times
Right.
and they keep,
all right, let's initially look at the 7th of April,
That day's available.
okay?
Yeah, if it matters, I'm looking at being in Angel Fire the 30th through the 3rd.
You seem to do pretty well coming in on Zoom. Could you do it for the next meeting?
Oh, absolutely. No, the Zoom is no problem.
Good. So, and next meeting, what I would suggest we try to do is pick a permanent meeting date. One of those third Thursdays of every month or whatever out into the future. So that we have this set in stone.
So, Kurt, could I ask you for the next meeting, could you come up with some dates for some tours of the water plant? You see,
so you wanna do it on Tuesday or Thursday?
yeah, that would work. for you.
Tuesday the
That's what I'm
7th.
interested in seeing the water plant.
10 o'clock.
I know pieces of it, but I don't know.
In your spare time.
10 o'clock.
Look forward to. We actually didn't have a water treatment plant. Treatment device at each well. I should have where it is. Thank God we don't have the challenge of turning ditch water into
What day?
drinking water,
Where we are.
but we have.
April 7th.
17,000
10.
vertical feet up the hill, so. I really think that, we should be looking at
At 10 o'clock.
Yeah, no,
You know.
that's, like I said, I'll be gone all of April, so if you could come up with some dates in May for everyone to go out and take a look at it if interested. Whenever, which I gotta meet
All
the,
right. Thank you all so much.
as far as, for the next meeting to get items on the agenda. One thing that I had forgot to add to this agenda that was a point of discussion was, contracted road maintenance. So maybe in the next meeting, we can have further discussion on that.
Okay, sure.
Because basically anything y'all bring up, I want to get on the agenda so we can all have discussion on it.
All right, thank you. Done.